Hey everyone, this video is going to cover and explain why Trundle support works. A lot of people have been asking me why this champion who seemed to come out of nowhere as a mainstream support actually arose and why he's even there, and I wanted to elaborate. So for those of you that don't want to know the entire bit of all of the details and all the echelons why, click the link summary right now as seen below, which lasts around 1 minute 30 seconds. If not, let's get stuck right into the detail. Trundle's base stats. First and foremost, Trundle has some of the highest base stats in the game. This basically allows him to take more damage and of course give more than his fair share, effectively giving him an early advantage of just stats beyond anyone else realistically in the bot lane. This of course is just nice, a support with amazing early stats, why not? This also means later on to the game you've also got your leg up with those free defensive and offensive stats without actually necessarily having to spec into them, so you've got decent stats. Trundle's passive, King's Tribute. Whenever an enemy dies near Trundle, he heals 2, 3, 4, 5, 6% of their maximum health. Now, this has been said to be useless in Trundle support. I could not disagree more. There are a few reasons to this. Number 1, free sustain. Whenever your AD carry kills a creep, Trundle usually gets this percentage amount back. This is literally mental sustain. It's so hard to push a Trundle out of lane when minions are just dying around him. Match this with the Torgans, which he generally always gets, and it means you're staying for essentially good. This also opens up a lot more than just making it hard to push you out of lane. Trundle can also take risks, go in for engagements, quick fights, then back off and sustain it all up. Early, especially, this is extremely important. It allows you to make mistakes and it also allows you to engage and recover from them more so than most other supports can. Number 2, melee sustain. Just a side note, most melee supports in the bot lane are easily harassed and beaten down due to their lack of range, we all know this. Leona, for example, can be beaten up easily and there's not really much she can do beyond just really all-inning, and that's not always possible. Trundle can actually take this beating like a champion and easily just come off and sustain it up, better and more so than most other melee supports. Number 3, free tank stats. This is actually a bigger point than most like to mention. There are a lot of free tank stats mid to late game with this passive. At the 15-minute mark, Trundle is mainly just a debuff lockdown tank who deals an okay amount of damage. This passive gives him the tankiness factor a little bit stronger. So, for example, another one, if you kill a tank at the 40-minute mark, you can receive hundreds of free HP as your reward. As a tank in the front line with enough kills with your team, if you kill an entire enemy team, for example, you can get 500 plus HP. That's pretty good. This is actually a great defensive steroid, assuming your team can grab the kill. This gives you a free boost to get those tanky heights. Number 4, it works for your W. Your W increases healing effect. Guess what counts as a healing effect? Yep, your passive. Basically, this allows you to even further make the sustain even more effective. Trundle's Q, Chomp. Trundle's next basic attack slows the target for 75% for 0.1 seconds. After biting the target, Trundle regains bonus AD for 8 seconds. Half of that AD will be removed from the enemy at the same duration. Bonus AD is 20, 25, 30, 35 and 40 AD. I'll explain why this is great on Trundle support. Number 1, free damage. The amount of free damage you can provide early game is not to be underestimated. I've been in fights where Trundle support at level 3 done more damage than me, the AD carries, done more than 70% of the damage of the target and just me at 30%. The combination of high base stats and this free AD steroid / general damage makes Trundle early game a terrifying foe to say the least. Mid to late game you also have an okay amount of damage due to basically this ability, which gives you more than just, it means you're just more in a big tank, you're also a small threat as well. Number 2, AD reduction. The AD reduction is also nothing to sneer at. Early game, removing 15 AD from an AD carry is removing nearly half a BF sword. This is a good all-in tactic and removes a lot of counterplay against Trundle. Merely walking up pillar, Chomp to remove his AD forces them back, because they've got lower AD, they're not going to win the fight. And then from here, you're also doing a lot more damage because you've done the Chomp, which means you get free AD boost. Or from here, either they fight you with lower AD or they're forced to run where you get free damage. There are very few free ways to deal with Trundle without heavy mobility. Number 3, Bruiser's No Likey. This ability also comes with defensive capabilities. Using Chomp on an incoming bruiser to your backline can be a nice way of removing 20 AD for them for 8 seconds. Since bruisers early mainly rely upon high base stats and a single damage item like Black Cleaver most notably, you're screwing over their damage potential and leaving them mainly just as well a tank. Number 4, it's got a 4-second cooldown. This ability's got a 4-second cooldown. I can't express how low this is. During massive teamfights, you can apply this easily 6+ times for an overall reduction of around 120 AD during the fight at max rank. During small fights in the bot lane, you can apply this at least 2 times plus, which once again removes a lot of early AD. This has a lot of cooldown and allows reapplication to take place if needed. You can have this debuff off permanently on 2 targets if you timed it correctly, and on 1 if you time it even half-heartedly. Number 5, 8 seconds of hell. Not only has this ability got a short cooldown, it also lasts 8 frickin' seconds. 8 seconds of such a big debuff, especially early game, is kinda crazy. Late game versus bruisers, this is 8 seconds too long. This is a strong buff with a very strong duration. Number 6, screw AD casters. Lastly, I just wanted to emphasize that AD casters such as Graves, who can work completely off AD, and Bursting are extremely screwed versus a Trundle who can remove this all-important AD. Versus very AD cast-based champions, he really does screw them over quite severely. Trundle's W, Frozen Domain. Coats a target area and ice for 8 seconds whilst inside, gains bonus attack speed, movement speed, and 20% increased healing and health regeneration from all sources. Bonus movement speed 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Bonus attack speed 20, 35, 50, 65, and 80%. Why is this so strong? Number 1. Position your E. Now your E, which I'll get into later, is one of your strongest spells. Positioning this powerful spell is everything. You can use your W to position your pillar amazingly well. There is actually very little you can do to avoid a good Trundle pillar versus a good Trundle when he uses that W. He can use his W, chase you down easily with early boots, which you always get on Trundle, and get a perfect pillar every time. This point I've seen not really mentioned all too much. It's one of the main strengths of Trundle. You can always get a good pillar with boots of swiftness in combination with your W. Positioning a really good pillar is absolutely disgustingly strong. With your W, it makes it a lot easier. Number 2, free damage. Now, a free AD steroid on Chomp is nice, but you know what's even nicer? Free attack speed. And you know what's even nicer than that? Attack speed and AD together. Basically, auto attacks ADs early game they're basically limited by attack speed. With the steroid for both, this can give Trundle early game stats, which is already scary enough, to an all-in extravaganza. Or mid to late game, give him some decent damage so he can get to the backline, or just even, I've seen this, dual or frontliner. The combination of these steroids makes Trundle a good bruiser for your team and a good mid to late game damage support, or just start game a really good all-in AD support. Number 3, defend the backline or dive. This movement speed also means you can position for the backline, frontline, midline, or any other line you can think of, assuming you're staying within the lines of this ability. Basically, your ability to position to do anything you want is a nice overall benefit that leaves you with plenty of other options. Number 4, sticky. Trundle, if he gets on the backline, can become extremely sticky with this ability. He can get to the backline and can only really be removed by hard CC or heavy mobility, all of which could basically denies even more from the enemy, and it makes Trundle support even more viable. Trundle's E, Pillar of Ice. It's active. Trundle projects a Pillar of Ice at the target location for 6 seconds, knocking back everyone directly over it on cast, acting as impassable terrain for the duration and slowing enemies around it. Cast range 1000, which is really large. Slow duration 30, 35%, 40, 45%, and 50%. That's a pretty big slow. Cooldown 23, 20, 17, 14, and 11 seconds. This is why Trundle is actually possible to be played as support. Let's cover why. Number 1, pick potential. This ability is some of the strongest pick potential in the game. With 1000 range, which is nearly a KQ in length, you can cast this at massive range and apply a slow and a figurative stop sign behind your enemy, and you're in good shape. The hard pick potential of this ability and at literally every point in the game is disgusting. Separating people from their team is ease with this champion, especially with the movement speed of him. Versus a mobile enemy, it can be a free kill every single time. During the lane, you can pick an enemy over and over and over and over again for a free engage, and there's nothing your enemy can do about it without being heavily mobile. Number 2, defense. Your pillar also has fantastic defensive tools. You can use it to keep an enemy at bay from a mile away. This ability can also disengage and just completely counter a gank. They come into the lane, wall, pillar, done, stopped. This is a very fluid defensive item. There are a million ways of stopping people with an appropriate position of a wall. This can single-handedly disengage an entire team fight, or cut people off, or cut a bruiser off anyone. It's really, really effective. Number 3, offensive, defensive. The main part of Trundle is the ability to use this ability in an aggressive or defensive sense. Since it's got such a huge range, even when behind you can create this massive CC at range to get somebody completely out of position, or of course just use it to get away. Normally a lot of melee supports and supports in general have to get really up close to disengage, or have trouble disengaging in general, or even going aggressive if they're behind. And even with range CC like Leona's ultimate for example, you can miss them pretty easily. Since Trundle's pillar is a static CC, they have to run around it being slowed the entire time, and it's just a really effective CC that just really can't be messed up too heavily. Number 4, jungle fights. I don't think there are many stronger champions in the jungle than Trundle. Your ability to pillar the last man coming out of the death brush is just ridiculous. The enemy team will literally never be able to position perfectly. How can they? In any fight you can just cut them off with a pillar, or literally push the enemy team into 2 parts. Any jungle fight or any close engagement fight, Trundle nearly always wins. Number 5, team fights. Mentioned previously, this is an insane team fighting tool. You can even split a bruiser from your AD carry apart with this. You can cut the kiting AD carry off, you can split the tank engager away from his backline. You can engage, you can re-engage, you can disengage, you can stop the enemy backline from kiting overall in general. You can cut them off, cut their escape route off, you can cut bruisers off. You can even use this as a slow tool for your team to catch up. The possibilities are limitless. This is the main reason why Trundle is such a strong support. The immediate CC at range on such a low cooldown mid to late game is disgusting in itself. Add in the ability to have team fights with this as well, it just turns into be revolting. This is the reason why in such high level play, this Trundle pillar is game changing. Cut the enemy AD carry off when they're running away. Dead, 100%, no chance of getting away. Just such a powerful immediate CC is such a good strength. Number 6, max CDR. The main madness of this ability is exacerbated by a lot of CDR. With max CDR you can have this in around a 7-second cooldown approximately. With the time the pillar is up, this becomes a complete anger-inducing torpid bear, ready to pillar you at every couple of seconds. It really is disgusting. This is the main part of this ability. It's just such an immediate, complete cut-off CC, and there's no real counterplay to it. I mean, Banshee's Veil doesn't even work versus it. There's just such difficulty dealing with the CC. You can't defend the AD carry, Mikhail's doesn't work, QSS doesn't work, Banshee's Veil doesn't work. There's no way of stopping this ability from doing what it does best. Cutting people off or just slowing them with a 50% slow at 1,000 range so they can't get away. With max CDR you can have the pillar nearly permanently up. As a nearly permanent fixture on the map. That is, to me, is just borderline broken. I've just seen this work so well. I've played with the friend of mine. He only plays Trundle support realistically. He went from being a bronze player this season to a platinum player this season, and I've started playing a couple of AD carry games with him, and the disgustingness that is Trundle support just really can't be described with a pillar. Trundle's ultimate, the active. Trundle drains the life force out of an enemy champion, instantly dealing magical damage, healing for the damage done and stealing 20% of their armor and magic resistance. He then applies the same effect to the target over the next 4 seconds. This is a godlike tool for himself and his team, let's explain why. Number 1, tank stats. First up, Trundle is a frontline tank or tank bruiser. These tank stats can even furthermore exacerbate the oomph to become a frontline god. If behind, this ability gives you the stats to stay in the game as a frontliner with the mass HP and armor and resistances you're getting. When ahead, it gives you the tank stats to walk in front of a nuclear bomb and say hello. It's an extremely powerful item for a tank, which Trundle is. Number 2, Tank Shredder. We all know the feeling of that Rammus top getting out of hand and being essentially unkillable. This ability shreds HP with this percentage damage, gives Trundle some of it back, then of course after that takes hundreds and hundreds of HP off the target, and then on top of this you get the resistances of the tank, removing, well, their resistances. They can't really deal with this at all. Trundle can remove the frontline from the game himself. He turns them into little puppies, you know, buoyantly walking around. This ability to make a tank ineffective is extremely powerful for his team to burst them down or at least remove half of their HP, which is kind of crazy. Also, the ability to damage tanks as a support to this degree, there are very few supports in the game that can do anything near this. Trundle is one of the very few champions in the game that get this amount of free damage and free shred. Removing tanks from the game, like the Rammus comes in, you remove 40% of his resistances. It's one of the rare champions that can do this, and that it removes tanks as a an effective counter towards certain compositions, especially seeing the rise of AD carry compositions where people are building a lot of AD and our armor as well to counteract it. Number 3, maths. This effect doubles, so you can remove 40% of your target's armor and magic resist, and this is all given to Trundle, making him a mega tank to his already full tank build. This ultimate will basically turn the tank stats you have kind of super troll, if I could dare say it. Summary. So let's have a look at it all in one go. The troll has very high base stats in many different areas, mainly of course this being his defensive and AD stats. This is a great start. Trundle has a passive that works with his W, giving him lane sustain and mid to late game sustain during fights, making him movable lane or really hard to kill during team fights in general, so basically free tank stats. His Q chomp is on a low cooldown and lasts a long time. This is a debuff ability that removes up to 40 AD from an enemy, giving Trundle half of this. Chomp allows Trundle to do a lot of damage with high base stats and of course in combination with his W, which gives him attack speed. This means he possesses great damage for his support, who generally speaking isn't going to build it. His W gives him the ability to be mobile in teamfights, hard to pull off when he's on the backline. This ability, as mentioned previously, gives him the combination ability to use with his Q to give him attack speed and AD, which is a deadly combination. Lastly, most importantly, this ability allows him to position his for great pillars, or basically unavoidable pillars at the best of times. Trundle's Pillar of Ice gives him great pick potential, which is one of the best in the game, defensive capabilities, and generally a fluid ability which can be used to completely change teamfights, destroy engages, ganks, and anything else in between. Additionally, mainly with the max CDR, basically turns it into a permanent fixture on the Rift, which is nearly up to cut people off from their teams, and single-handedly with one good pillar, cut people off or win you a teamfight. Finally, Trundle's ultimate gives him a mental amount of base damage and percentage HP shred, which additionally grants him 40% of his enemy's armor and magic resistance. This allows him to be super tanky at all points in the game, and most importantly, makes him a tank shredder for his team as well. Overall, this makes Trundle a really good debuff champion and an amazing frontliner for his team, having the ability to lock down, debuff, and furthermore even do a little bit of damage. Additionally, he's got a lot of free tank stats, which basically means that as a frontliner, he's not really a fail. He actually can stand up there with the best of them, toe to toe to that Darius, and actually survive, which is quite rare for a lot of other champions. Very good champion, tanky, he's got a frontline presence, he can pick people off, he's got utility, he's got debuffs, and naturally speaking, he scales well mid to late game. There is nothing really too bad about Trundle. The main strike with Trundle is he has two super debuffs, Q and R, which are just stats, and Pillar that is probably one of the best pick ability and basic abilities in the game with insane cooldown and pick potential with a slow knockback and terrain. Overall, I feel Trundle is, generally speaking, a mainstream support. The amount of debuffs, the amount of CC he's got, the amount of just tankiness and frontline potential is very, very powerful right now, especially in the current meta. We've got so many AD carries being played, and generally speaking, a lot of the other supports are kind of being outclassed because they get burst on too easily, or they basically can't get in close enough. Trundle basically trumps all of these issues by being a tank frontline and having the ability to lock down. Overall, a very good champion. Trundle is a mainstream pick, guys. Is a very strong support. Definitely advise him in any level of play. And that's it for the video, guys. If you like it, dislike it, dislike it. If you like the content, you can subscribe. And if you think it's horrible and absolutely garbage and I'm totally wrong here, you can unsub. I also stream on Twitch TV, guys. The link will be in the low bar. I bring educational and of course fun content. I hope I'll see you guys there. Beyond that, guys, have a great day. Best of luck in the Rift, and I'll see you guys next time.